Very often, you have rankings to how terrifying a certain being is in a certain universe. You've heard different classifications being S rank, A rank, B rank, disaster level threat, God level threat. Every single world, every single universe has its system to delineate exactly how dangerous and how threatening your opponent might be. The character that I am about to talk about is a character so terrifying, so menacing, that he has devised his very own classification of threat level that throws the entire world out of balance. Above every threat level we've seen thus far, the fourth Hokage from Naruto, Minato Namikaze, has been given the status of flee on sight. Now picture this, you're in the middle of a war. You're trying to win this war, obviously, by the fact that you're in the middle of it. But if you see Minato, flee on sight. Don't try to fight, don't try to struggle, flee on sight. This was the birthing place of Minato, the Menace.
遅かったか?
Normally speaking, when you're building up an anime character, the best way to go about it is to build up an anime character that's gonna become a major player in the future that we haven't seen yet, that hasn't really been around yet, that's present hasn't really been known yet. So we spend a lot of time crafting and building up a brilliant anime character to terrorize the world at some future event. Well, look no further, lads. Minato, my boy, has gotten so much hype and build-up talking about him before we ever learn anything about him, before we even see him in a flashback, or before we knew anything about his relevance to the actual plot. All we knew about him was that there was this nine-tailed fox and this dude sacrificed his life to seal it away. That's what we know from the very first episode, so we know the guy's a badass. But as the story goes on, little by little, more and more things are dribbled into your mouth, where you could slowly but surely start to learn about the menace that is Minato. When they talk about the people who've gotten the highest scores in the history of the Leaf Village, you know that Itachi got the second highest score in history, surpassed by Minato, the fourth Hokage. As you continue proceeding, and Jiraiya is teaching Naruto this legendary Rasengan that only like 3 people in history have ever mastered, you learn that it was invented by Minato, the fourth Hokage. When you have this dude, Orochimaru, basically a terrorist pedophile terrorizing the Leaf Village in the most horrible of fashions, fighting the third Hokage in this epic clash where the third Hokage has been revered until now as the strongest ninja in the Leaf Village, this absolute mad lad beast of a dude, and in that very same fight, Hiruzen whips out a jutsu, the Reaper Death Seal, a legendary technique so powerful and terrifying, even Orochimaru never heard of it, nor did he have a way to counter it, and guess what, bitches? It was invented by the fourth Hokage. I have spent this much time trying to describe to you how menacing this man is despite being dead 12 years before the story started. When we actually learn about who he was when he was alive, you do learn that this man had the flee on sight tagline that no matter what, even in the midst of an all-out war, with opposing ninja countries fighting for their very survival and future, it still wasn't worth picking a fight with Minato because there is no way you can recoup those losses. I feel like by the time Minato was actually introduced in flashbacks, and also that, you know, he sealed part of himself into Naruto when he sealed the Nine Tails, which is like the most badass thing in the universe, this man has been hyped up to oblivion and he does not disappoint even for the slightest of seconds. I still think to this day, the flying raijin jutsu is probably one of, if not the most badass jutsus in all of Naruto. He makes every fight look like a chess game where he's playing chess and his opponent is playing chess also, but his opponent is XQC when he's Hikaru Nakamura. In his flashbacks alone, when you have him up against A and B, 2 incredibly hyped up and powerful ninjas that we've each seen perform the most epic of flexes by that point when we actually got the flashbacks, with A completely manhandling Susanoo Sasuke at the 5 Kage Summit, and with B fighting the entire Team Taka and manhandling Sasuke. I'm just noticing how often Sasuke gets manhandled throughout the series. But the point is, these 2 guys were no joke, and they got absolutely humiliated by Minato, and they actually fight the guy. Minato is such a menace that he never postures, he never promotes himself as a mad lad. He is a humble dude dude that's just terrifying in every possible way, because no matter how fast you are, no matter how strong you are, no matter how smart you are always going to be one step behind him in battle. He sees Kakashi using Chidori, this incredibly fast jutsu, to the point that it's fast enough that it can cut lightning in half. It's too fast for Kakashi's eyes to even keep up with. He needs to have the Sharingan before using it. Minato immediately recognizes the flaw in the jutsu. He immediately stops the jutsu. He immediately says, bro, you can't pull this off. But obviously Minato would be able to, because he's faster than the entire thing. Dude, this man's wild. It's like every single character that we get through the entire story, through the entire show, only exist as slight feats to show you how terrifying Minato actually is, and why he is so worthy of the name, a ninja that when you see him, you flee on sight. I decided to talk about Minato as a menace because I was kind of reminded by how absolutely mad lad of a fellow this guy is, because they recently released a one-shot manga. It's like a 55-page manga of Minato. It's like a backstory when he's still a teenager and he's able to cancel out tailed beast bombs with single Rasengans. He's able to flying raijin teleport people away. He just straight up pulls off feats that Naruto post-pain can't even do, and he's just so humble about it. He's just some dude. He's just some guy being dude. He's just one of the boys being one of the boys. And I think that just adds to his mystique and terror. If he was someone that actually went around threatening people, destroying people, being a menace to society in public and in the forefront, yes, everyone would recognize he's so scary, but he at least had to do something to have people recognize that fact. See, even in the same series, other characters that are recognized as some sort of menace, they're all actively going out of their way to do things to disrupt everything. In order for the Akatsuki to be considered a world-level threat, they literally had to invade a summit of the 5 Hokage and assassinate John F. Kennedy for the second time, where Minato is just some guy being dude, except if you see him, you flee on sight. His humility is, in my opinion, what makes him so absolutely menacing and terrifying. We recognize him as the threat that he is, despite the fact that this man does everything in his power to just be looked at as some regular guy that, you know, has a big heart and loves his family. This dude's like, oh man, yeah, I suck at Sage Mode. I can't do Sage Mode right. But then in the fight, he does Sage Mode, and he doesn't even have like the half fusion with the frogs that Jiraiya does. This man mastered Sage Mode to the level that Naruto mastered Sage Mode in the Pain fight, and he considers himself as some guy that hasn't really mastered Sage Mode. And it's like that for everything. Again and again and again, and I feel like it is completely worth mentioning how prudent it is that despite the fact that this man throughout the entire series has made himself like some regular guy, is still recognized as the flee on sight level threat that he is. He uses the flying raijin jutsu and he's like, oh yeah, this jutsu was made by the second Hokage. He uses the Sage Mode and the Rasengan and he claims that they're both imperfect jutsus. In one of the most wholesome panels in all of Naruto, which was recently released in that one shot, he says to Kushina, I love you and I love that you're stronger than I am, which obviously can be represented by state of mind and stuff, but it really goes to show how just humble and good of a man Minato is. Now, maybe I'm only saying this with a mouthful of cock, because I absolutely love this man. The fact that he is such a humble man that is looked at as such a world-level threat by every other party and every other nation, not only in his own time, but even in future generations that they didn't want him getting summoned. This dissidence in perspectives from the guys that knew him to the guys that feared him, in my humble opinion, gives him, and I say this with no prejudice, the title of one of the biggest menaces in anime. Also, this man literally moved faster than Obito's Kamui. Do you see this? He just flips